I got my peaches out in Georgia. Oh yeah, shit. I get my weed from California.
It's the Courtroom War Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Jacobs, and with me today is Kira Vizcaino out of Washington, D.C.
No, I'm Los Angeles.
Oh, you're in L.A., okay.
Yeah.
The city of angels.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. So, the Courtroom War Podcast is about, mass incarceration. We address, courtroom issues, tricks and tactics that attorneys use to win, some of the corruption of, district attorneys' offices throughout the country and throughout the world. We are the only podcast to address these issues, in a raw manner with voices from everyday people, and Ms. Vizcaino has a connection to the prison industry in the sense that she's has pen pal with individuals and learned about the prison industry in that manner. And if you can introduce yourself and tell the world, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you. My name's Kira. As you already said, I'm located in Los Angeles. I'm a single mother to a teenage daughter, which is extremely challenging, especially during all these COVID shutdowns. It's been a really difficult past year. I've been a hairstylist for the past 10 years, but the COVID shutdowns just decimated my business. So during the shutdowns, I started taking real estate classes, and I just got my real estate license. I just passed the test 2 weeks ago. So now I'm trying to start that business.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. So it was actually because of the shutdown. That's how I got into writing inmates. I had a lot of time on my hands. I didn't, it was an emotional time for everybody, because I didn't know if I was going to even have a business to return to. People were scared. We were scared we were going to get sick. We were scared of, what is the government going to do to us? I was just so scared on so many levels. And I just, my fears, I found very quickly, like my fears were different from my friends' fears, because I have I already have a pre-existing deep distrust of the government. Whereas my other friends were focused on, trying to stay healthy. I was like just down this dark rabbit hole of being so scared that, there was talk of martial law, especially being in Los Angeles where, there was all the protests and fires, and people were talking about potentially the military coming in. And my daughter is Hispanic, and people were talking about ICE. And I mean, my daughter was born here, but I was so scared that because of the civil unrest, that it was going to put us in a position where like ICE could just come in and take my child. I was terrified, basically. Like my brain was like going crazy, and I was just so beside myself in fear. So one day my daughter's friend came over, and she mentioned my daughter's friend is 16, she's underage. And she mentioned that she wanted to write this prisoner on death row. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, yeah, you can actually be pen pals with people on death row, but my mom won't let me because I'm underage. And that's what that introduced me to the idea of what are you talking about? You can be pen pals with inmates. And she introduced me to this website called writeaprisoner.com. And it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of profiles of all of these guys in prison. And I spent probably a week just going through all of these profiles. And I just kind of got fascinated with all of these people. I wanted to know, what is their story? How long have they been there? What did they do to get there? And as I was like looking through all those profiles, my heart was just aching. I think like the mother in me intuitively felt, and maybe
hold on one moment.
Yeah. As I was looking through all of these profiles, there was a lot of curiosity, like I said, like I wanted to know more about these guys and why they were there, but it was also like really touched my heart. And I felt like I felt like that these are just, it just made me so sad that I felt like that all of these people are somewhere so far away and so cut off. And I feel like that most of them are probably the product of just being born into terrible circumstances. And also, like, I felt like I just looked at them like that these people just need love, like that love is, you know, if they were born into different circumstances, maybe it was just like a lack of love, that maybe like love would have put them in a different situation in life, I think is what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's interesting that, like, from, like, what was it, anything in your background? Was it any movies you saw? Was there anything like something that you seen in childhood, like, other than this encounter that you had with your daughter, that kind of made you gravitate towards wanting to help prisoners?
I'm trying to think. Nothing as far as like watching a movie, or, you know, like I've never been like obsessed with like true crime drama or anything like that. It's nothing like that. But yes, as far as my background, definitely. My background is that well, I don't share this with many people, but I'm comfortable you know, talking about it, because I think it's something that affects a lot of people, or affects especially a lot of women, and people don't talk about it. I'm actually a sex and love addict. I'm actually an anorexic sex, love, and fantasy addict is how I identify. And that means that, like, I go very long periods of time without having any kind of sexual relationship. And that is because of my childhood. And being able to engage with these guys that are locked up puts me in a like an emotionally safe position where I feel like actually, you know, form a relationship with someone that I know the chances of ever meeting them are slim. So it's like, it's actually, it's been like healing for me to be able to like develop these relationships in a way that feels safe to me, if that makes sense.
No, it makes plenty sense. I mean, even you know, even when I was in prison, when women used to write to me, I will often wonder, like, am I a safe place for this person? Like, is it the case that she doesn't trust the guys that are out there in the world, you know, or maybe it's just something about how this whole thing is that I really pay attention to her, that I really think about the things that she says. And, you know, like there's a really deep intimacy that takes place. You know, there's a lot of, you know, thoughts that go into, you know, corresponding and, you know, talking on the phone and all those different types of things. I just like a question, like, do you realize the healing impact that you have on the people that you write to who are in prison?
Well, I write to two different guys, and the answer is yes and no. So there's one guy that I write to, he's only 23 years old, and he's so sweet, but he's, you know, he's been in the hole for months, and he's so lonely, and he just really wears his heart on his sleeve, and he has expressed to me how much I mean to him. So with him, I do know, I do feel like I'm, you know, helping him by just, you know, thinking of him and keeping this correspondence open between us. The other one, Michael, he's 40, and so he's more age appropriate for me. Michael, I feel more like it feels like an actual relationship with him. And yet but you know, kind of like what the same questions that I would be asking myself in a real world relationship, I'm asking myself with Michael. And that is like, I don't know how he feels about me. I do wonder, like, is he just talking to me because I'm the only person he has to talk to? Like, does he really care about me? I don't know. And yet, like, I'm maybe also like the fantasy addict in me is envisioning this life with him.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you ever ask him? Do you ask him directly, like, you know, how do you feel?
I don't, because I'm scared to. I guess because my pattern with my own, my sex addiction pattern is that, like, in the real world, like, I'll go out on like 100 first dates, but like, like if I meet someone online, I have no problem like going out and meeting someone immediately. But the second I see them, I feel in my mind, I've already made up my decision. I'm never seeing this person again. I don't want to ever see them again. And I get scared. And with Michael, we've been writing for months now. So it's like I'm already feel like so like attached to him. I'm scared if I take that step and make it more real by asking him how he feels about me, I might get scared and want to end things before I've even met him. I'm also scared that if I do meet him, the same thing is going to happen, that the second I see him, I'm going to say, no, never mind. I'm scared. I don't want to have anything to do with you, and it's like, by writing him, I'm keeping that hope alive for myself that maybe this could be different.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that the isolation that was bred through COVID, in the US, kind of made you feel connected to people who are in prison?
For me, no, I don't think it has to do with the COVID isolation, because I spend a lot of time by myself anyways. Like, the things that I like to do are like go hiking alone. I spend a lot of time alone. So like, I'm just a loner. So COVID hasn't affected me in that way. I think the isolation where I do connect with his isolation is with my sex and love addiction, the anorexic side of the sex and love addiction, that I have isolated myself throughout my entire life emotionally from connecting with people in an intimate way. And so it's that internal, emotional, psychological isolation that makes me able to really connect and relate to his physical isolation.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. I think that people connect on many levels for different reasons, such as how you just described.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think
it would be untrue of me to go any further without noticing how awesome your hair is.
Oh, thank you.
I know you said that you are a stylist. Did you do it yourself, or did somebody at your shop do it?
Oh, I do my own hair. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's nice.
Thank you.
Do you choose colors based on seasons, or?
Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Like, sometimes in the summer I try to do like more of the lighter pastel colors, because typically people want to go lighter in the summer. And like, there was one Christmas that I did a beautiful emerald green around Christmas time, like from Thanksgiving through Christmas. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sometimes it's seasonal, but it's usually just, I just save the remnants of color from when I'm working on clients. And I just mix those up and create customized colors. And I just use whatever I happen to have on hand.
Okay.
So it always comes out different.
Yeah. So have your pen pals ever seen you yet?
I've sent lots of pictures. They've seen my pictures, but we have not done any video calling yet, which I really want to. So Zay, the younger one, he's in the process of being transferred to another prison. And to get to the prison where he's going to have to go through another prison. So I told him once he gets settled into the final prison, I would like to do a video call with him. Okay. It's weird because, Zay is the younger one, and it's like he kind of fulfills me more emotionally. He's so sweet. Like, the things he says to me are the things that I wish a guy in the real world would tell me. But especially the age difference, he's 23 and I'm 46. Like, I'm literally old enough to be his mother. So I kind of have an issue with that. But yeah, Zay is just so sweet and he fulfills me in that way, like that emotionally. He tells me the things like just very like ro- um romantic, Michael, the one who I feel is older, who I feel, more like I'm actually in a relationship with Michael, even though we haven't actually talked about that, but that's how it feels. I feel like I'm in a relationship with Michael. I talk to him on the phone every week, Michael, and but he's not romantic at all. He's very
Well,
grounded.
just to try to like give you maybe like a little perspective or insight on that, I think that in many cases it may not, like one of the biggest differences might be how they do their time. So
Yeah.
if Michael's in like a high stress situation or a high stress violent type of prison, then your mentality tends to be more survival based or just really focused on whatever depends upon your survival. The
Yeah.
most getting out of prison, getting to where you need to go day by day, so forth and so on, versus like the younger guy might not be in a prison like that. He might have the freedom of spirit to, be himself and things of that
Yeah.
nature. So it's little things like that that make a big difference on the type of attention that a man in prison pays to, his love interest.
Yeah. Michael's situation, I think, is particularly multi-layered, complicated because he's paralyzed. He was shot in the back. The 10 years ago, he was shot in the back by the police and it left him paralyzed. They also shot off a finger. So he has so many medical problems. And, the prison system has been extremely inadequate in addressing his medical needs. So yeah, it's like he's already isolated by being cut off from the world by being in prison. And then on top of that, he's serving his time in prison while being paralyzed in a wheelchair without proper medical care.
So I mean, that makes a big difference. I mean, if you're in a medically vulnerable situation, like it's hard to focus on anything other than, I mean, even like when I was in prison, I had such a volatile relationship with the staff that I felt that at any given time I could be killed. So, that affected my relationship. That affected, the heart that I put into my letters and things of that nature. So I mean that it could be that. I just don't want you to think that it's you, because it's not.
Yeah.
He probably, if he had any space at all to really think and feel everything that's been going on between you and him, like he probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you, like, what do you think are some of the preconceived notions that are false about people in prison?
Probably that they're all, drug addicts and criminals and, that they're just bad people. And I don't see it that way. I think that, they're people like anybody else who, made choices that got them where they are, but that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It's just, it was a bad choice that they made at one point in their time.
Mm-hmm. Well, too, that there's a well-known thing in the judicial process where people could make the same bad decision, and because of their background or because of their skin color, they get a different outcome.
Yeah. Right. Definitely.
So I think it's the other thing I wanted to ask you is what are some of the preconceived notions also false about people who care about people who are in prison or who correspond with people who are in prison?
I'm not sure, because I feel like maybe on one level, maybe I meet the stereotype because I'm like, a middle-aged single mother that's has too many like psychological issues to pursue a real relationship in the real world. So it kind of like suits me perfectly to have this relationship with these guys. But I would imagine like maybe some of the preconceived notions are, it's probably lonely women, probably, women who are obsessed with, true crime. I would imagine that there probably is a lot of that, true crime fans that are reaching out to these inmates. And also just like the stereotypical woman who, I like a bad boy, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of what you just said is true. I think a lot of that plays a part in, a variety of relationships. Some people, I think also, you kind of mentioned it too, are just, advocates of a better world.
Super talented. And so, yeah, I mean, he just spends his days doing legal paperwork, because he's got a team of attorneys working on his behalf. He's serving, I think he's only a year and a half into a 13-year sentence right now. This is his third time in prison. But because of all of his medical issues, I feel like if they don't release him, they're going to accidentally or intentionally kill him, because they don't know how to take care of him. They don't know how to take care of someone who's paralyzed, who has all of these medical issues.
He's not getting the proper medical care.
No, not at all. No, they keep botching medical procedures. They keep making him wait forever. He's still waiting he's been asking for an ultrasound on his bladder for a year now, and he still hasn't gotten it. He has a tumor. He's supposed to be getting physical therapy every week, and it's not happening.
Yeah, it's just a terrible thing, and it's a well-known thing, because the prisons often outsource medical care to big companies who are basically trying to save money. They're sending in the cheapest labor. They're sending in unqualified individuals to do work on people's bodies and play with people's lives when they're not qualified to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Completely unqualified. And now the most recent thing is he has a tube that needs to be changed I think it's once a month or once every 2 months. And because they keep botching it up and causing infections because of their incompetence, they're telling him that he's going to have to do it himself now to avoid any legal problems.
Now, what type of sense does that make? Like, I mean, the government actually sends people to prison for practicing law, practicing in medicine without having the proper degrees, without having the proper training. But here it is, the prison is telling him to operate on himself, basically.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's ridiculous.
Completely insane.
So I like that you've become a voice for him, because in many ways being in prison means being cut off from society on a lot of different levels. So it's good to have somebody who's thinking of you and speaking for you, keeping your name alive, making people aware of those situations and things of that nature. So I just wonder, like, do you have any ideas or hope that others might become, voices or advocates for people in prison?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wish, getting to know Michael, I've been trying to find myself, organizations. Like, is there some kind of organization that could help him? I mean, I know he already has his legal team trying to help him get out of there as soon as possible. But in the meantime, he's getting these infections, and I feel like he's rotting away in a jail cell, and I haven't, found any organizations that could help him. But I also, I tell people about the writerprisoner.com website and encourage, I would like to encourage people to to pick out a pen pal and write to them, because if you're on that site, it means that you've got someone on the outside that created that profile for you. But for every guy that's on that site, there's also guys that they don't even have any friends on the outside to care enough to post a profile for them. Because Zay, I didn't find Zay on the website. No one posted anything for Zay. Zay came into my life because I had written another inmate from that website who already had pen pals. And so he gave my name and address to Zay because Zay didn't have to talk to.
So I'm gonna ask you this question. It might be too personal. You don't have to answer it if you don't want.
No, sure.
But do these guys that you correspond with in prison, do they ask you for money?
Yes and no. Okay, so Zay never has. But Zay never has. Zay's Native American, so I think he's mentioned he gets some kind of money from, something that comes through the reservation. Somehow he gets some kind of money through that. So he seems to be okay as far as money goes. But I want to send him. I want to send him a gift. I was talking to him about this book I want to send him. So I might send him a book, but he's never, ever asked me for any money. Michael has asked me for money, but I initiated it when we first started talking. One of the things that attracted me to his profile was his artwork, because there was a drawing that was on his profile. And I asked him if I could, if there was some way I could send him art supplies. And he said, no, I can't, I'm not allowed to send him anything, but I can put money on his commissary so he can buy himself some art supplies. So I did that. I just put in like 10 or 20 bucks for him to have some money to buy some art supplies to support his art. And then I'm trying to think if he ever he did recently straight out ask for money, but I've never felt it, with Michael again. Like I feel like it's like we're in a relationship, even though we haven't actually talked about that. It feels to me like this is a relationship, and I'm just doing what I can to help him. It's not like I'm giving him money that I don't have to give. I give him money when I feel like I have the money to give. And it's just like, $20, $30, $40 here and there. It's not like a set amount.
Now, I don't see no problem with it. I just know that a lot of people might say that, the line is, oh, these guys in prison, they just tell you anything that you want to hear just so they can get money, and then they get out and they never come speak to you, and things of that nature. When that's a myth. I mean, you do have people who do that, but at least a lot of the guys that I know, we honor those relationships, we honor those bonds and things of that nature.
I've never ever felt that Michael was just talking to me to get 20 bucks out of me. And I've never felt that way. Like I said, I initiated it, and yes, there was one or two times when he asked, but I feel comfortable enough saying no if I can, or no if I don't want to. Like I've never felt like that he was just talking to me just to get 20 bucks out of me, but never.
And even in the scenario that you described, he's actually not even saying the things that you want to hear, or saying that, he's not even being, emotional or expressive and things of that nature. So
exactly, which makes me feel better. It makes it feel more real.
Yeah.
That he's not not feeding me, stupid lines, With Zay, I think because he is so young, he's more emotional, and I think he's just super lonely, and it makes him feel better to like have these like romantic fantasies with me in his letters. Michael's not like that. Michael is very grounded. He's so positive. And he just, it just feels more real. The fact that he's not trying to be all romantic,
Yeah, I relate to that. I mean, there's a lot of guys I met who were in prison who were very principled, in the way that they dealt with people inside of prison and outside of prison, you know? Like it's just like a betrayal. There's a betrayal to self to have to lie for somebody to like you,
Yeah.
you know? That's how I felt. I felt like I would be betraying myself. That I'm not good enough, that you if you can't look at me and feel that I'm good enough for who I really am, then I really don't need you in my life.
Right.
You know, I mean, not everybody thinks like that, but I know other men who do, who are in prison.
Yeah. And that's like goes for on both sides, like, because like I said, I don't really know how, even though like I feel like it's like a blurry line. I feel like I'm in this relationship with Michael, but we haven't actually talked about that exactly. But it makes me, in a way, makes me feel good that, when he calls me every week, he doesn't have to call me, you know, in the real world, I would have the ability to call him. I don't have that ability to call him. So I can't just like be like the crazy obsessive girl calling her boyfriend every day. I don't have, so by him continuing to call me every week, I feel like that must mean he must want to talk to me if he keeps calling.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you're an easy person to talk to, and I can tell you that in prison, um it's not easy to find people who you enjoy talking to, who have a lot to say. In prison, people are real, not talkative, you know?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to like the staff members, like there's like a code, that pertains to that. You don't want to be seen talking to the staff members because then people might think that you're a snitch or think that you're telling them something that you're not supposed to be telling them. So
Yeah.
there's no real communication there. There's no real communication amongst the prisoners because most people are living a lie, living a facade, not open up, not open to expressing themselves in front of other men. So in all reality, like you might be the only place where he feels safe speaking honestly, or just
Yeah.
just vibing and just having a regular conversation. There was some people who I had in my life who I knew who might have wrote me maybe once a month or who I called once a week, but I knew that from that encounter would be fruitful, that when I got that letter or that card, that it would be something positive and uplifting, or that when I called this person, that we would talk about something so exciting that I would be waiting to talk to her again next week.
Yeah.
You know, so I can tell you that there's a good chance that you're having more of an impact, behind those walls than you realize.
I hope so. I mean, just because I feel, obviously I'm very limited on what I can do for him.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Well,
I hope that maintaining a relationship with him and talking to him and writing him, I hope that I'm helping him, just get through this.
mhm. I think that just my opinion. I really think um that you should tell him how you feel.
Yeah.
I think that, like, just for you and for him. For you, because it's a fear, and by actually acting on what you really feel, you might overcome that fear.
True.
That might be a step towards overcoming that fear. And also in doing so, um, you might open him up, to thinking that way and feeling that way, or saying something that he might already want to say, you know?
Yeah, that would be a very interesting conversation to have with him. I would love to have that conversation, but at the same time, yeah, like I said, I'm scared. And then what if I'm hesitant to have that conversation now because I haven't met him face to face? what if we meet face to face, and what always happens to me in the real world, as soon as I meet the guy face to face, I'm like, oh, never mind. Oh, I'm scared. Don't touch me. Get away from me. I never want to see you again. Bye. And I especially feel like extra, what's the word? Like extra concerned about how that will make him feel if my issues get triggered like that. And if I meet him face to face and I get all freaked out and scared and don't want to see him again, it would make me sad, like if he felt like it was because he's in a wheelchair, because like that's not the issue for me. Mm-hmm. Him being in a wheelchair actually makes me more attracted to him.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I like to point out, and that I was like very aware of when I was in prison, is that women, I feel, get much more out of the man emotionally and mentally while he's in prison than they do when he's not in prison. Yeah. Especially for guys that live a fast life. Like, she's not getting, in many cases, she's not getting anything from him but sex and trips and maybe a little bit of conversation here and there. But he's not in, a space in his life where he feel he needs to express. So, in that case, I feel like, although you may react that way to guys out there in the world, at least having these conversations with him, you can have real conversations, real meaningful conversations. You can tell him about the things that you think and, the fears that you have and all those different types of things. And he has this, maybe he has the space, he for sure has the space more than the people out in the world do to actually consider that and think of that and explore that and converse about that and, come to a decision on whether or not, it's something that he wants to be a part of or not, at least in that scenario. Like you've had some experience with how men think on the situation, how you're able to handle the situation, so I think that just like, pushing the envelope on your fears might help.
That's very true what you said about that the guys behind prison walls, they are in a place where they have more to offer emotionally, because that is my experience out here. That any relationship, I've been single pretty much for like over 10 years now. Like, I split up with my daughter's dad when she was 2 years old and she's 15 now. So it's been like 13 years and I have not had a real relationship since. It's just been flings, there's been affairs, there's been dates, but not a solid, genuine, authentic relationship. And I mean, yes, part of it is because of my issues and who I'm attracting. But in my experience, it's that these guys, they don't want to invest emotionally. They don't want to open up. They just want to have sex and move on. Mm-hmm. And whereas the guys in prison, they have nothing but time. That was the first thing that Michael said to me when I first wrote him, the first letter back that I got from him. He said, "You have my undivided attention." For a man to say that to me is like, I grew up with an extremely emotionally distant father, and that really messed me up. I mean, that's really where like my addiction comes from, is the relationship that I had with my father. So for a man to say that I have their undivided attention, like that means the world. Mm-hmm. You can't get that from anyone in the real world. Mm-hmm. In my experience anyways. And again, some of that is, because of the type of people that I'm attracting, but it definitely that's something that's been healing for me, to be able to just talk to a guy and have their attention, and they'll just listen to me.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, so like you've gotten something good out of it. He's getting something good out of it for sure. Just knowing you, just knowing that you exist, just knowing that you're thinking of him and that you care about him. it's a great thing. You know, I agree with you that more people, you know, should be concerned with the state of, you know, prisoners and the situations that they're in. A lot of people don't understand that the things that happen to people in prison are a part of experiments that eventually are tested out in society, you know? So people should definitely be aware and in tune with what's going on in the prisons. And the only way to do that is through the individuals who, you know, who are there or that who come from there. I think it says a lot about a person's humanity, um, you know, to reach out in that way and be there in that way for people who, in many cases, have really nothing to offer. In the way that people generally expect.
Well, I think both of my guys have given me a lot to offer. You know, like emotionally, they've offered me a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I really appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate the work that you do. I recognize its impact. You know, not just on a prison level, but on a societal level as well. These individuals will eventually be released. And, you know, to have a positive impression about the people in society, you know, being there for them and loving them and caring about them also helps that transition. I very much appreciate your honesty. I know that you know, the Courtroom War podcast, you know, listeners are going to very much appreciate you as a guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I just want to advocate again, one more time, writeaprisoner.com is where I found Michael. And there's hundreds and hundreds of profiles on there for people looking for willing to be a pen pal. And yeah, I personally have gotten so much out of it. I love my pen pals. I love these. I actually love these guys. I really care about them. I love them as a friend. I love them as a person. And I hope to meet both of them someday in person.
I like it. So writeaprisoner.com, hundreds of profiles, pick somebody out.
Yeah.